Hello and welcome to this transmission. And before I get started on this very particular topic, I would like to first lay out my intention. The intent for this particular recording is to express two things. One, why slavery was the gravest crime against humanity. And this crime doesn't affect just black people, but it affects every single inhabitant on this planet. And I will express why. And two, what can we do today to practically apply reparations? Now, all I ask from the listener is this one thing. And this one thing is to have an open mind. Because, as I like to say, I am not a person that makes many promises in life, but I will promise you this. This will be a different perspective. And all I ask is just to hear me out. Because these solutions will benefit everyone. This isn't just a black and white thing. This isn't just an us or them thing. This is something for all of us. And so let's get started. All right, thank you all for tuning in. And so let's get started on the very first topic as to why slavery is deemed the gravest crime against humanity. Now, for those of you unaware, there was a vote taking place in the UN that recognized the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. And so I won't bore you with the details on who voted no or who voted yes or what have you. You can all look that up yourself. And so I just want to talk about why that is the gravest crime against humanity. Now, regardless of where we are and where we sit, our age, social economic group, religion, upbringings, what have you, I want to anchor something in that allows all of us to connect to a common understanding. And from this common understanding, we can then all begin to make the same conclusions and really see things for what it is. And not just see it for what it is, but see things in the same way. And so to anchor all of these things in, I want to first start by asking you a question. What is the most fundamental driver that builds, sustains, and grows all of the societies in the world? Now, I want you to take a moment and ask that question to yourself. Just think about it. Because when we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade, when we're talking about slavery of any kind, it is helpful for us to yield an understanding from what it is I'm about to anchor. Because from there, slavery automatically will be understood. And we will not just see slavery of black Africans, we will also see slavery in different types. And I'll also discuss that as well. Now, going back to the question. In the past, when I have asked people this question, 100% of them have answered money. But you see, the correct answer is trade and commerce. The exchanging of one thing for another. The exchanging of one's labor effort, whether it's them working a remote job, a construction worker, a fast food, an Uber or DoorDash or whatever. It is the exchanging of that labor effort work for X amount of dollars. It is then the exchanging of X amount of dollars for X product or service. Everything in regards to our external engagements in the world revolves around this paradigm of exchanging something. Now, why is this important in the context of recognizing slavery as the gravest crime against humanity? We have to look a little bit deeper. You see, in all of these exchanges, whether it's one exchanging their labor effort work for X amount of dollars or X amount of dollars for X product or service, there lies a common denominator in all of these exchanges. Now, if I ask you what is that common denominator, it still may be tempting for one to answer money. Well, you see, there used to exist a type of society where exchanges could be made for goods and services without the need of money. That's called a barter. And now today we have what we call a capitalist-based society. And so in order for this answer to work for both a barter-based society and a capitalist-based society, the answer cannot be money. And so what is it? It is one's vital life force energy. I want you to think about that. Your vital life force energy. Now, throughout history, different cultures have named this vital life force energy many things. Chi, mana, prana, ki. But it is the vital life force essence, the energy that exists in all of nature. You see, now let's take a look at those two exchange examples that I pointed out earlier. If one lacks the vitality, the vital life force energy to even get up out of the bed, then over time they will yield the conditions to where they can't convert their labor effort, whether it's remote job, a construction work, or whatever. They can't convert that labor effort work for X amount of dollars per pay period. If one lacks the vitality to even roll over in the bed and pick up their phone to place an online order, then they will yield the condition to where they cannot exchange their X amount of dollars for X product or service. And so everything in regards to exchanging or even engaging with the modern world involves first the initial investment of one's vital life force energy. And so to come back to slavery being the gravest crime against humanity, if people are being taken from their homes, their communities, and they're being forced into engaging with the world, converting their vital life force energy into labor work, whether it's picking cotton or what have you, it is the siphoning, the stealing rather, of one's vital energy to yield an outcome that another individual has for them. And this is why slavery is deemed as the gravest crime against humanity, because now I want you to sit back and really think about that. Think about all of the times that people have been coerced in modern situations to invest or focus their vital life force energy into things or means that yields nothing. I mean, if we take a look at, quote unquote, the cost of living and the rising of prices and all of these things, when it comes to paying for anything, when it comes to paying for a product or a service, it involves X amount of dollars, yes. But how does one get those X amount of dollars? In one way or another, they have to convert their vital life force energy to move their body out and about in the world to do something, to yield some kind of movement, some kind of engagement, some kind of interaction with something in order for those X amount of dollars to appear in their account. And so in regards to slavery, can you just imagine having to work 40, 50, 60 hours, whatever, and you're not getting a single paycheck? Can you imagine what it's like to be able to work, and every single dollar that one makes is automatically taken, and they can't pay for food, they can't pay for anything because all of your work, all of your effort has been hijacked, siphoned, and stolen to propel another person's goals, another person's dream. Now, sure, anyone can have the argument and say that, well, I mean, today could be deemed as modern day slavery, but let's not really think about it in that sense. Let's really just think about the sense of one going out, they're putting all of their work, all of their efforts to engage with this world to yield X amount of dollars per pay period. And while one can say that, yes, it's modern day in some way, at least they still have the means, the money, at the end of the day to buy something, whether it's a hamburger or just something. Even if people are lacking behind on bills and all of this, at the end of the day, they can still at least buy one thing that they want. But now imagine that all of the money that you could possibly make in a work period, that entire check doesn't even hit your account. You're just waking up day in and day out, going to work and doing this and going to work and doing this, and you're not even getting paid. You don't even get a direct deposit. That is slavery. And why it's the gravest crime against humanity is because it directly takes one's vital life force energy and redirects it toward another person's goal, another person's aim. This is why it's the gravest crime, because what else is there out there that could be worse than one putting all of their energy into something and getting nothing? I really want you to just take a moment and just think about that and reflect. While we can argue what needs to happen, it's not really necessary if one doesn't first grasp and hone this deep innate understanding. Because this understanding of vital life force energy being required for every single engagement in the world, it doesn't affect just black people or the descendants of slaves. This affects blacks, whites, Asians, Hispanics, everyone on this planet, because everyone on this planet in one way or another have to engage by first investing their vital life force energy into everything that they're doing. And so this concludes the very first topic, why slavery is the gravest crime against humanity. And now I want to take a break. All right, I am back from the break, and so we're going to start talking about this second topic. How can reparations be enacted practically? Now, when we typically hear the term reparations, it's typically talked about in a context of some kind of financial frame. And so I want to step away from that. And before I go into how these things can be enacted practically, let's all align ourselves with the actual definition of reparations. The one that I will be using is the act or process of making amends for a wrong. Now, in this age of accountability and seeking accountability for every action, we can go left and right in regards to all of the wrongs that can be admitted. And so I won't bore you with any of that. Instead, let's talk about what we can do today to practically enact these reparations that aren't just beneficial for black people. Because I want to really make that point clear, because typically when we're talking about reparations, it's always framed in this sense of only giving black people this and making black people privileged and all this stuff. And it really has nothing to do with that, because whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, or any descendant of any one of those older times, slavery, the act of slavery in one way or another, directly or indirectly affects all of us. And so the idea that I have in regards to enacting reparations that benefits everyone, it's under 3 pillars. And the first pillar I want to talk about is, in order for reparations to be enacted practically, the first step toward achieving this goal is to provide an infrastructure where true freedom is lived. Freedom. We hear that term all the time, but how often do we really sit down and define that term? And so let me do that for you. The definition of freedom is the condition of being free of restraints, especially the ability to act without control or interference by another or by circumstance. Now, I want you to sit down and really just think about that definition and really internalize the meaning it's conveying. Because in order to have an infrastructure where true freedom is lived, if we take a look at the first part of the definition, being free of restraints, with our modern day work society, where we're converting vital life force energy in order to make a means of making money, paying bills, paying rent, at the end of the day, what is restraining you? Can you wake up and decide not to go to work? Let me ask you this question. Can you just wake up one day and quit your job? And chances are for a lot of people, they can't, because they have bills, they have rent, they have all of these things to try to maintain their existence and being in this society. That is a restraint. And so in order to construct an infrastructure where true freedom is lived, those restraints have to be removed. Now, the second part, especially the ability to act without control or interference by another or by circumstance. How many times have people been wanting to do things with the intent to just be happy? You're not going out of your way to hurt another or to be a pest or a problem in another's life. You just want to live and be in peace. But it seems that the things that you want to do with your family, it seems like there's a circumstance of all of a sudden things are going up, the prices are going up. Now less and less money is being allocated to the family fund to go out to Disney World or what have you. How many of us have been in situations to where you have this idea, you have this goal, you have this aim to wanting to do something, and then first you have to go through all of this effort to go to work, only to then be tired and not want to do the things that you want to do. But it's easy to be distracted and sit down and watch that Netflix. Oh, maybe I'll do it next week, or maybe next weekend. Then when next weekend comes, then something happens. All of a sudden you're on call because now you got to go into work because something's down because someone pushed code out on a Friday. It's always something. It's always a circumstance. And so in order to have an infrastructure where true freedom is lived, we all have to recognize and acknowledge that things can be different. And if all of our engagements first involve the investment of one's vital life force energy, can we all agree that these differences that we want in the world can yield the benefits to where one doesn't have to continuously invest their vital life force energy to maintain their existence in society? And so I don't want to just talk about what it is. I want to point out a solution. I want to point out many solutions that we have. And so there's a resource out there, and I implore all of you to just pause and just look it up. And before I go into it, I want to first state that I do not represent this organization in any way. I'm not being paid to talk about them or anything. I just like to keep track of things that is really intended to benefit humanity and just talk about it, you know? And so this resource is called the Venus Project. And the Venus Project is a nonprofit organization geared toward building sustainable habitats. Now, that's just getting the foot in the door. I mean, they do a lot of things, and I really implore all of you to look it up. But the reason why I started off with the building of sustainable habitats is because the primary thing when it comes to infrastructure is first having the stability of living in the place that you're living now. And in order to build sustainable habitats, that can then offset or yield the conditions to where we, as a collective people living here in this country, don't have to put vital life force energy into maintaining a parasitic existence that's looking to charge every quarter, that's looking for prices to go up every single year. And so to start there, I mean, we have the means to 3D print buildings using sustainable, renewable materials. Can we use that same energy to actually print habitats that we all can live? I mean, at first it may not be flashy. It may not have the beautiful design and things, but it's a good place to start somewhere. I mean, we can start looking at the homeless. We can start looking at all of the areas that's affected by people who are unhoused. We can then start there. And then, of course, since a lot of people see it as believe it, I'm putting that in quotes, they can then see that, yeah, maybe we can do this. Now, again, before anyone puts out the argument of how much is that going to cost or who's going to put the money into all of these things, remember the very first premise. In order for anyone to get those X amount of dollars, they have to first exchange their vital life force energy for those X amount of dollars. And so if we're looking at a situation where a lot of people are sitting on a ton of X amount of dollars, at the end of the day, in order for one to have so much of those X amount of dollars, it's either built on top of their investment of vital life force energy, or it's built on top of the investment of other people's vital life force energy. There's no other way around it, because in order for anyone to have X amount of dollars in their account in this particular society, it involves someone putting their energy into it. Now, I want you to really think about that. This, in one way or another, is kind of related to what people typically deem as the current working society being a modern day slavery. Now, I want to break down what people mean when they say that, because there are a lot of ways of expressing this particular perspective, and I understand that it can kind of rub people the wrong way, especially those who are really close to that experience of actual slavery. And so I want to start with an example. I want you to imagine two items: an ice cube and a glass of water. Now, on the surface, the ice cube and a glass of water are two completely different things. Let's imagine that the ice cube is what people would deem as modern day slavery. And let's now imagine that the glass of water is what slavery used to be in the past. Now, even still, on the surface, these two things appear different. But what happens if one introduces heat into the experience? Heat expressed as an ice cube may yield what we see as the ice cube melting. Heat expressed in the glass of water may yield what we see as the glass of water boiling. And so slavery in that day versus what people would deem as modern day slavery today all starts from an intent. It starts from the pattern of engaging with the world to yield certain conditions. This pattern is the heat. Regardless of one living today calling it modern day slavery or the slavery of what happened in the past, there was a pattern of heat introduced in the experience. This pattern of heat is what people typically mean or talk about when they're trying to express or convey modern day slavery. Because if we take a look at it as the vital life force energy example, today, people are still incorporate or investing their vital life force energy to get anything in the world. And in the past, the vital life force energy of the African slaves were basically stolen from them in order to serve and propel the aims and goals of another person. And so I digress on that little thing, but it is important for all of us to align that just because we don't see the cracking of a whip happening today, it doesn't mean that those patterns aren't present today. I like to look at intent as a seed. And let's say the seed is an apple seed. We can plant this apple seed in Oregon, Washington, California, Florida, New York, heck, even Thailand. And regardless of the environment that seed was planted in, an apple seed will always be an apple tree. And so just because slavery in the modern sense is what people typically point to, just because it's not seen as cracking the whip or calling people slurs out and about openly and forcing them to do things, that doesn't mean that there aren't conditions right now that exist that coerces people or forces people in circumstances that could be deemed as slavery. Again, the hijacking, the stealing of vital life force energy to do something that people don't want to do. At the end of the day, if you didn't have a job, or if you didn't have the need, or if you didn't have the requirements, rather, to slave away X amount of hours in order to just get this little thing in order to maintain the box that's every month constantly looking to be being taken away from you, if that restraint was removed, then what would you be doing? Would you be sacrificing or slaving your time, energy away in order to do that simple thing? No, you'd be doing exactly the things that you want to do. In the modern day sense, it's subtler, okay? And so that's the first thing, the infrastructure. I know I was on a little tangent there, but all of this is involving the first one. It is having an infrastructure where true freedom is lived. Now, the second topic. The second one is going to be a little bit out there, and I will provide a resource that all of you can look up yourself and really make up your own mind. And the second one is access to higher wisdom and understanding of the true nature of existence. And I want you to think about that. Now, I know to a lot of people, this may sound woo-woo and all of this stuff out there, right? And I wish not to talk about things such as religion and spirituality or anything like that. I just want you to really think about what it means to have access to the higher wisdom and understanding of the true nature of existence. Because regardless of whether one is working a 9-to-5 job, whether one is free out and about, whether one is a content creator or anything, there exists a common substrate, a common means to where all of our existence can coexist together. And so in order for me to really massage this into the collective psyche and understanding this, I want you to think about what you did last week. Just a summary. I want you to think about last month, last year even, and really just take a moment and just think about how your entire life played out all the way last year up until this moment that you're listening to this. And I want to say that there exists right now a reality, and you're probably just becoming aware of it right now as I'm getting ready to express it to you. And so I want you to look up something. This resource I want you to look up. It's called Psy Games International. That's PSI Games International. And what you will find there, if this is your first time ever hearing about this, what you will find there is a competitive arena for people with psychic abilities. Yes, you heard that right. Psychic abilities, psychokinesis, moving things with the mind, remote viewing, using the mind to locate distant objects, dowsing, using one's intuitive capabilities to perceive information without spoken word. Now, why on this beautiful blue earth am I bringing up this psychic abilities? Because there exists right now a competitive arena for people with psychic abilities like it's any other sport. And you probably just became aware of that at this moment. And now with this newfound awareness, one could ask themselves, well, what more is there out there? Access to higher wisdom and understanding the nature of our existence will yield the conditions that truly frees people, that truly frees the minds of people and getting them out of living in this modern sense that's looking to parasitically take from every single direction. Because now I want you to take a look at psychokinesis for a moment, just really quickly. The ability for one to use their minds to influence and move objects. With that particular understanding, what more can we really do? What more can one access without the restraints of gatekeepers looking to keep people distracted and ignorant on the true nature of their existence? If one just honed that ability to be able to use their mind to influence objects and things, how would this world really look? And it's important that I want you all to really look at these things, because now if we're looking at the example again with psychokinesis, and I know this is out there, this is why I want to give you that resource, because if you are I'm a see it to believe it kind of person, well, that's the thing there. You can look that up right now. You can YouTube videos and you can see people moving side wheels. You can see people with blindfolds on and really calling things out. So I really want you to look this up, because just having an awareness of this possibility, what more really is there out there in regards to understanding our true nature? Because it is then by understanding this true nature that the great mystics of the good times would say we're all connected and everything is connected. And in order for us to actually live in peace with one another, honing an understanding of this nature of our existence is key. Now go ahead and pause and just look that stuff up. And now we're going to talk about the final topic here. This final topic is, I would say, really important. And the reason why I use the example of Psy Games International and the psychic abilities and all of this stuff, because it's somewhat related to this final topic. This final topic, in order for reparations to be enacted practically, requires the recognition of the sovereign status of everyone. Take a moment and really think about that. The recognition of sovereign status of everyone. Because if we take a look at the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Constitution has a First Amendment. But what I want to talk about is the freedom of one's spiritual expression. Now, I know I said I am not going into this whole religious woo-woo talk, okay? But the reason why I brought this up, I want you to really think about this. Let's take a religious person, someone of the Christian faith, let's say. Let's take an atheist. Let's take a Buddhist. And let's put them all in the same room. And regardless of their own ways, their faith, their way of seeing the world, there lies a common denominator. Just like one's vital life force energy being invested into the experience, there is a common denominator that allows an atheist to exist freely, that allows a Buddhist to exist freely, that allows a Christian to exist freely. This common denominator that connects all of us is consciousness. One can be an atheist, one can be agnostic, one can be Christian, one can be a Muslim, one can be a Buddhist. It doesn't matter. What matters is that at the root of all of these modes of experiences, consciousness exists. And without consciousness, one cannot get up out of the bed to convert their vital life force energy in order to yield the conditions to where they can have X amount of dollars. Without consciousness, one can't even roll over in the bed to convert their vital life force energy to place that online order, converting their X amount of dollars for X product or service. And the reason why I use the First Amendment, because regardless of one's faith, whether they're agnostic, whether they're an atheist, whether they're a Christian, Buddhist, what have you, there lies a fundamental factor that not only allows one of their faith to exist but one who chooses not to align with that faith, and it is consciousness. And the reason why I say the recognition of sovereign status of everyone is because if we take a look at all of the current systems out there that's looking to parasitically siphon and take every single thing, in one way or another, these systems are infringing on the fundamental First Amendment right of everyone. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to be spiritual, but you have consciousness. And if consciousness is able to exist freely in a religious person and can still exist freely in a non-spiritual religious person, then in one way or another, it is consciousness that is the key. And in order to have anything in the world, it involves consciousness exchanging their vital life force energy for anything in the world. Can one be unconscious and still go to work? And I mean true unconscious. Can one truly be unconscious to then get up and go to work and convert their vital life force energy for X amount of dollars? Can an unconscious person suddenly roll over and convert their vital life force energy to then convert X amount of dollars for X product or service? And you see, consciousness is the fundamental factor of everything. It is then consciousness using the vital life force energy afforded to that person, that individual, to enact changes, to do anything in the world. And so where reparations come in, this isn't a talk about money, because you see, money isn't even required here. It requires all of us to come together and recognize our connectedness and recognize the same things that we see, whether it is an ice cube melting or a glass of water boiling. In one way or another, in our unique differences of experiencing reality, we are all still feeling this heat. And this heat is the parasitic siphoning and stealing of one's vital life force energy, hijacking it for the means and goals and aims of any other person outside of them. And so if we really want to be technical here, we have two choices here in regards to enacting a practical reparations. Every single person born and living in the United States can file a lawsuit due to the infringement of their First Amendment right, whether they're spiritual or not. It's still affecting their consciousness. Or we can all do this together in a diplomatic sense, to where we all come together and actually make the changes that we all want to see. How can we do this? Well, I mentioned looking at the Venus Project, building sustainable habitats, but how can we all connect and come together? Well, we have elected officials out there. We have the means of live streaming. I mean, have you ever watched any of the current live streams of like these young guys out here? I mean, these guys are literally traveling the world and doing all these things, and people are engaging with them. Let's use that same energy. I mean, it doesn't cost much for anyone to have a live stream. Let's say you have a facilitator that's opening a public dialogue with all of these public leaders, live streaming and capturing live sentiment with people. It's like, okay, hey, everyone, who has the funds to do this? Where is the areas most affected? Let's all vote. I mean, there are public polls that anyone can put in live streams to really capture live stream sentiment. We have AI that can then parse and do all of, and parse all of this data and information in order to have a concrete, holistic approach on doing this. We have the technology today. This doesn't take millions of dollars. I don't even think it costs money really to do these things nowadays, but we have the means of doing it. And so that is a choice. That is a choice. How are we going to do this? And I leave that choice up to you. But me being among everyone, I have a choice as well. And I choose a solution, an outcome where everyone wins, where everyone can achieve and experience true freedom. And remember, the definition of freedom, the condition of being free of restraints, especially the ability to act without control or interference by another or by circumstance. An infrastructure where true freedom is lived. We can start there. We can start by setting up a pilot program. We can all come together and vote. A city, a state, where we can launch a pilot program that we can start to build sustainable habitats. So we can come together and actually 3D print things, and we can see for ourselves that maybe, just maybe, we can all do this. I mean, I'll tell you this. I walk into the forest and I certainly don't see the squirrels climbing up the tree, knocking on the branch, demanding their acorns for the month. And so how is it that a quote unquote advanced civilization thinks it's okay for people to siphon the vital life force energy of other people in order to prop up their means of existence? The squirrels don't extract everything around them to maintain their existence. And so why should an advanced civilization be okay with doing that? And I'll leave you with that. Now, to close, if you made it to this part, Thank you. By listening in to this transmission, you have at least shown me that this is worth some of your attention, and I am immensely grateful for that. But there's more that we can do. And it first starts by us all coming together. Again, we have the technical means. We have the means of contacting our local officials. We have the means to where we can facilitate public dialogue to where people don't have to fly all over the place to meet. We can come together and we can work together. While a gallon of water may seem like a gallon at first, if we had several people allocating a teaspoon of effort, then this gallon will be filled in no time. And this is how we should look at things, because regardless of one's socioeconomic class, where they lie on the corporate ladder, or where they are in terms of their living in this world, in one way or another, we're all still feeling heat. And it is up to us to finally acknowledge and recognize that, away from differences, away from the us and them, but in the space between us and them. That is where we work from. And so thank you all for listening into this transmission, and you all take care now.